You probably recognise this. It's the new Hyundai i30N hot hatch. We are at, very exclusively and excitingly, Hyundai's development centre at the Nurburgring, and the reason we have all these boxes here is that we're not allowed to show you what's on the other side of them. The i30N comes in two versions, both powered by a 2-litre turbo and driving the front wheels through a 6-speed manual gearbox. The standard car has 247 horsepower for just under 25 grand. This car is the N Performance version, which for 3 grand more has 271 horsepower, bigger 19-inch wheels, stronger brakes, different steering and final drive ratios, a removable brace bar in the boot and a proper electronically controlled mechanical diff. Out there is the Nurburgring. I think that ought to be our first stop. Not 62, 6.1 seconds. Top speed, 155 miles an hour. I should be out there right now, but I'm not because it's an industry pool lap session and I can't go on until the tourist laps start in about an hour's time. But this test is not just about driving the i30N on the Nurburgring, because hot hatches don't live on the Nurburgring, they live in the real world. So after this, we are going to go and drive it on motorways, on country roads, and we're going to finish up in the mountains. So two things are striking me about this car early on, one of which is how stiff the chassis is, which is lovely. It really feels very taut and precise. And the other thing is how it actually feels a bit born to do this sort of stuff. So that was really interesting. I've thoroughly enjoyed taking this onto the Nurburgring. A, because it was developed here, and it's always interesting to see where people have developed cars and, you know, to drive them where they've been developed. But they haven't just developed it on the circuit here, they've developed it on all the roads around here, they've developed it in different countries, they've developed it on the Grossglockner Mountain Pass, where we're going to go tomorrow. So we're on the Autobahn. We're not in a bit of delimited Autobahn at the moment. There have been bits, but it's busy because it's just tail end of rush hour now. We've been on the road about 5 hours already. We are approaching Munich and we've still got 200 miles or so to go down to the Grossglockner. The car's doing really well. It's very comfortable, the seats are really good, the driving position is excellent. What I particularly like is they made a real point of making sure that the driving position, whether you had the electric seats or the manual seats, is exactly the same. So the seat's not any higher in the electric seat version, which is great. The throttle's very steady, the car's very stable, it doesn't do anything frightening at all. The ride is quite firm. As I think I mentioned on the Nurburgring yesterday, it is quite firmly sprung. It's sort of a bit of a surprise, but I think that is exactly what Hyundai is going for. Even when you're on the motorway, you can feel it being detectably a little bit firm, a little bit different. And I think that's quite encouraging, actually. I quite like that. I like the fact that Hyundai has decided, right, no, we're not just going to copy a Golf GTI, we're going to try and be our own thing. And so it is, it's got that inherent sportiness to it. And if I just press this button here and go into sport mode, you can probably hear the noise change. And also, if I lift off, pops and bangs. We've encountered a bit of a setback. That's the Grossglockner toll booth to get onto the mountain road. Just driven 500 miles across Germany, and all the red X's tell their own story. They've closed the pass because it's raining here, it's snowing not much higher up. We're going to need a plan B. So it's now about an hour and a half later. We've managed to go and get some snow chains. The lady at the desk is a little bit funny, but I've got a credit card, I've got snow chains, and please to God she's going to let us go on now. Hi. The Grossglockner is proper hot hatch territory, and the i30N is a proper hot hatch. The steering has real meat and accuracy, the chassis is eager and alert, turn-in is strong, the front axle has real bite, the brakes are great underfoot, the gear change is hefty and rewarding, the differential is tenacious through tight corners,
There's barely any body roll. There's even a pseudo anti-lag system to keep the turbo spinning and improve throttle response. Criticisms? Just the stiff ride and a sense that the car could easily handle more than 270 horsepower. But it's genuinely impressive. It's got an edge and a sharpness that puts it in the same camp as the Civic Type R and new Renault Sport Megane.
So the thing about the Grossglockner is it's a mega driving road. It's not just a load of switchbacks. It goes on for miles and miles. There's very little traffic. There's a beautiful selection of corners. And that thing did really, really well. It's a very interesting car. It's much sportier than you expect, and it's much better than you expect. That surprised me a bit, actually. It's very sharp. It's got sharp brakes, sharp steering. Okay, a lot of it is all under electronic control, but you get a good feel from the car. It feels tight and tied down, and it gives you a lot of confidence. So yesterday evening when we were driving up and down, when the conditions were only wet, it felt very planted and very secure and stable. This morning on the ice, we're not really playing with it much yet. It's a bit too slippery, to be fair.